So the question is, this person's sort of agreeing with the project in some ways, and then they say, I also think it would be beneficial to delineate between competition and cooperation. In principle, I prefer cooperative approaches such as open source projects, but even scientific theories and perspectives are some balance of cooperate. We need to think about balance of cooperation and competition. There is the micro-level cooperation that occurs between interacting scientists, teams, individual labs, etc. The intermediate level competition of different theories, in other words, different schools of thought, so level competition. And the macro or meta level of cooperation of the general scientific community. So he's saying there's cooperation between, one moment, as this, it's very loud here in Brazil. A lot of cars are very loud, particularly motorcycles. A lot of motorcycles don't have mufflers on them, but that was a loud vehicle. There is the micro-level cooperation that occurs between scientists. There's the intermediate-level competition of different theories, and the macro-meta level of cooperation at the general level of the general scientific community. What do you think? I think, I think the social system sort of describes a lot of this, but again, this is a complex question, and so there's a lot to say, or there's a lot that could be said. The cooperation, the orientation, and therefore the objectives are to cooperate for our fulfillment. But that doesn't mean that individuals in their own, specific contexts where they're exploring and experimenting and recreating, that there won't be competition. And I don't think it's about allowing or disallowing competition. It's just that the value is cooperation, and so the objective is global human fulfillment in a cooperating manner. And then I see no reason why there couldn't exist in communities competitions. It's just what's the final reward. If you want to have like a group of teams, and a habitat or a network of habitats decides that they want to host a competition, and they want to organize themselves into teams, and those teams design something or come up with something or complete a task. You can do that I guess you could do that at the recreational level. I enjoy computer games that are competitive with others. I guess you could have cooperative games. So there's the recreational level. Then there's the technology development level, I guess you could say. And I guess you could have, if a group of people wanted to do this, or they could just continue to contribute to some sort of the open scientific information space and the set of open standards for the way they live together. So, I don't think it's about disallowing competition. I think it's about valuing cooperation, and then that value is reflected in the other significant aspects of people's lives that foundation their human need fulfillment. What do you think? Do you want to know? So, in terms of competing theories, of course, teams cooperate, labs cooperate, and then you're talking about intermediate level competition of different theories. So I don't view different, I guess some people do, it's sort of like the difference between debate, where you're just arguing with one another to win, or kind of like a philosophical argument where all involved are trying to come to an integrated, better level of understanding. And sure, that might involve experimentation and trying to show one's false in specific ways. But what I'm trying to say is I think that now, a lot of people look at it like this because a lot of people, I think, aren't being honest in many ways with themselves and their own theories. And so right now maybe competition is competition certainly, I think, is the right word now when it comes to these, especially when you say, literally it's said here, the intermediate level competition of different theories, i.e., in other words, different schools of thought. Even the word schools, I mean, that's kind of a market state term for how people are educated or programmed in the market state. And there's a lot of competition in schools, and schools are highly associated with competition. So, I think competition, I just don't look at it like that. I know some people do, and I see no problem with other people looking at it like competition. And that's fine if that derives a sense of motivation and the end result is a better understanding and better description of what is and what could be, then I see no problem with that. And the macro meta level of cooperation at the general scientific community. Yeah, because the general scientific community, I think, values cooperation because they see the benefits of it. So even and then the question further states, in a conceptual, non-tainted by market state principle system, I would imagine this intermediate level competition would be necessary to be its overall flourishing. So even in a conceptual, non-tainted, even in a community-type society, I would imagine this intermediate level competition would be necessary to be its overall flourishing, to sustain its overall. Again, it's depending upon how you look at it. Certainly, the intent to discover and develop a better habitat so our human needs can be met more optimally could be looked at as a competition, but I think it could also be looked at like just as a duty or something that one really desires, some sort of intrinsic, inherent motivation, and so you could also bring. I mean, it's really a perspective. For me, I just look at other people's theories and then I try to integrate them into a unified model, and if they don't fit, we set them to the side, and then we just continue working on this unified model. So in that sense, it's totally cooperative. But, you could always set up competitive games. I don't think it's about disallowing anything. Then the question further states, this difference, variability, or diversity in thought necessitates the decision of allocation of capital in a market state or resource time manner in the proposed alternative, assuming finite supply of all. You would therefore either have to A, disallow competition through either compulsion or interspective incentives, or B, allow for competition to exist at some level. Yes, there's it's not about, again, it's in the operation of community and the habitat there is cooperation. But at the individual level, at the like subsocial, like where people have their own friends and people live in their habitats with other people that they know, or even playing games, all this. What I'm trying to say is competition will still, I think, exist, but it's not necessarily necessary. I mean, I guess you could imagine a society that was completely cooperative and didn't even have competitive games like we play competitive games. But I don't, it's not.
I think it will be competitive in the sense like with ourselves be better. It's not like against other people. But I think it will, in community, the competition will be different. The competition we see today in the market state. Competition will not be a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't think it'll be considered a bad thing?
Yeah, no. In community, it can be like a games.
Oh, right. You're right. When we're living in a cooperative society, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a fly. There's an ant flying around us right now. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because society is working for people,
Yeah.
and so competition so you can hear the loud motors of the motorcycles because they don't have mufflers here. Well, I mean, of course they have mufflers, but a lot of people choose not to use the mufflers. I don't know why. Do you know why that is? Is that because of the cost, or is that because...
No, people think it's cool, to have like this so annoying.
Yeah, it's not so cool.
It's not. It's a noise.
Yes, it's pollution. We wouldn't choose to. It's not nice. So let me look at what this was saying. Okay, even in a community type society, I would imagine this intermediate level competition would be necessary for its overall flourishing. This difference, variability, or diversity, yeah, I mean, you can still, I mean, this, I think we need to break this down. This difference, okay, there's the difference in perspectives, but you see it's more of a meta-level perspective because the ultimate there are different perspectives. One can be highly tainted by beliefs, and so, I know, it's following us. So it's really the type of perspective that you imagine. And in a community, I think the type of perspective would be one of a philosophical argument where all people involved, all parties, groups, all competing entities, if you want to, are trying to work to a better integrated and unified model. And if you mean the competition between science, labs, the reward would change. The reward, it's not like you get a monetary reward because you resolved something. There's no, the reward would be the society seeing your identity next to a new discovery. Where are we going with this? Oh, right. This difference, variability, or diversity in thought. Right. We're talking about a perspective. And the perspective is that all of this difference, variability, and diversity is integrated both at an individual level and at a social level by the scientific community. And that integration, philosophically, I think they use the word philosophical integration. So, not them. Philosophers use the word philosophical argument, because we're developing a better argument for what our past, for how we understand our past and how we can build better into the future. This difference, variability, or diversity in thought, again, it can lead to greater integration. It's whether or not someone chooses then to say, I need to sustain a belief or something, which happens a lot in the market because of a lot of perverse incentives. This difference, variability, or diversity in thought necessitates the decision of allocation of capital in a market state or resource time in a market state. Okay, or he's saying, or purely resource time. So the two types of societies. This difference, variability, or diversity in thought necessitates the decision of allocation of capital is a market state term, capital in a market state, or resources, I'll say, in a community time environment, which is a more pure kind of way of looking at economics. The acquisition and transformation of resources into needed goods and services. In the proposed alternative, presupposing a finite supply of all. This difference in thinking necessitates. I don't know what else to add to this. market state resource and proposed alternative presupposing a finite, you would therefore either have to disallow competition. Well, it's not disallowing, again, it's not disallowing competition through either compulsion or interspective incentives. I think it's a matter of designing a different habitat operation, a different societal operation in which habitats operate differently. And then you don't disallow that. You create an environment where people are attracted and incentivized into it because it actually meets their needs. And again, there would be competition. I think there'll still be competition at some level, probably. As humans, I think there's. I like playing sports when I was younger. I still like playing computer games at a competitive level to some degree. So, yeah. So I think that brings some challenge for us, but also a lot of potential. All right.